Hi everyone, this is Belle with Pop Culture Uncovered, and I am here with Sherry,
Hey everybody, how you doing?
and we are about to talk about the first new soap opera in 20 years,
I
Beyond
think
the
almost 30, because I
almost
was
30.
definitely, I think the last one was Generations on NBC, and that is like late 80s.
That was 89 to 91.
And I
So,
don't think a new one's been created, a new daytime soap opera. I don't think they've created a new one since.
okay, so then we're going to talk about Beyond the Gates on CBS, the first new one in 30 years. Wow. Wow. When did
Yeah,
we get old?
I have no idea.
It's rude. So, Sherry, what is Beyond the Gates?
Beyond the Gates is set in a leafy Maryland suburb just outside of Washington, D.C., in one of the most affluent counties African American counties in the United States. At the center of this community are the Duprees, a powerful and prestigious multi generational family that is the very definition of Black royalty. But beyond the gate, beyond, but behind these pristine walls and lush manicured gardens are juicy secrets, scandals waiting to be uncovered. And those that live outside the gates are watching closely. These are the places where the characters live, love, work, and play. Those who have made it and those who haven't are all trying to navigate life, and some with more grace than others. That is straight from Google because it was easier.
Um, so as the summary explained, it's about a very wealthy family, the Duprees. And let's just talk about the cast and the characters. So the cast is headed by our queen, Tamra Tooney, who I
Amazing.
believe is one award away from an EGOT status because she's got an Emmy, she's got a Grammy, and she has a Tony, but I don't think she has an Oscar yet. And Clifton Davis, and the cast is includes Daphne Duplay as Nicole and Carla Mosley as Danny Dupree, and there are their two daughters. Um, then you have Nicole's children with her husband Ted Richardson, Martin, Catherine, and Ted's nephew Andre. And then Martin has a husband, Bradley Smith, and then aka Smitty, and they have two children, Tyrell and Samantha, and then Danny has two daughters with her husband, Naomi and Chelsea, and a gross ex-husband and by the name. Yeah, I'm already gonna say that I do not care for him, Bill.
We
Um,
don't we don't like Bill.
we really want to mess with Bill. We want to mess with Bill. We want to do a lot of things to Bill, and Naomi is married to Jacob, and Bill is engaged to Naomi's friend Haley. So, the main family are very, very much what you would expect of wealthy Black folks who have been through it. So, there's definitely some respectability politics going on.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Um, there's definitely some. The daughters have been so far removed, especially Danny, have been so
Mhm.
far removed from the movement which I will say, as I'm watching the show, I texted you and I said, if we took a drink every time somebody said the movement, we would die because holy moly, it is so heavy handed.
It is, but I mean, and I get it. We are trying to place this family at the forefront of the civil rights movement. Um, I'm Googling real quick because I'm trying to make sure. I think the grandfather, excuse me, Vernon Dupree is supposed to be like a former senator. Um, besides being wealthy, he's also like a senator, so he has power of some kind in the Maryland area, as well as being wealthy. His wife, Anita, is a singer, a former big singer, which for a Black family, that's kind of how we would get to be well known.
Yeah, it's so funny because the description for it was it's a star playing a star as a star, which is for Anita, which is hilarious because that's exactly what it is. You have a star who's playing a star who is still sort of a star. um, and Anita, I feel like she's very much based on almost a combo of the glamour of a Diana Ross combined with the vocalness of a who was also very glamorous, but in a different way of a Nina Simone. That was the impression I was getting, is that she's very much she's very glamorous, but she was never afraid to use that platform in a way that, I love Diana, but I don't really, and I know she was there, but I don't think that that was so much a part of who she was. Whereas with Nina Simone, you always knew that Nina Simone was like, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. And so, which got her into a lot of trouble. And, but she never backed down from that. And Anita seemed like that. Vernon comes across very much, very stately, but also, how do I put this? He made a comment when there's a scene that happens, and it's actually one of my favorite scenes to happen because it was the first scene in the first episode where Danny finally just snaps and slaps the living crap out of Haley. And in the next episode, he's like, well, violence is the answer. And I'm like, sometimes violence is the only answer, sir. But that is very much that generation, right? It's very much we peacefully protest, we do sit-ins, and I thought it was very interesting and thoughtful when he's having a conversation with Martin later on, where he goes, we did all this work and we're watching it be undone. That was a very quiet, powerful moment on the show because that's exactly what's happening in real life.
Agreed.
So the casting characters, the cast is stacked. All these people are people who have been known on Broadway. I know the oldest daughter, youngest daughter, Carla Mosley, she was on Girlfriends. She was always that, I hate to say it, but she was always that light skinned girl that people were always thirsting after in all the movies and shows in the 90s and the aughts. And so, Girlfriend ain't aged a day. I swear, when
Right.
my mom came in when I was watching like the most recent episode, and I'm trying to explain to her what's going on and who these people are. And I was like, yeah, and that's the mom of those two. And she was like, I'm sorry, that's the what of the who?
Right.
Ain't no way. And I said, well, mom, have you looked at yourself? We don't age like that. We age real good. So
We do.
um, I am enjoying the main family, but I definitely want to talk about some of the other background stuff in a moment. So the Duprees are very much like the main focus, but we do have other families. We have the Thomases. That would be Dana, aka Leslie, and her daughter Eva.
Mhm.
And then we have the McBrides, Vanessa and Doug, whom Doug we haven't seen yet. Vanessa is the best friend of Nicole and Danny. And I will have to say, Vanessa is freaking hilarious. The Laura, I want to make sure I'm saying this, Bugali,
Mhm.
cracking me up as Vanessa.
She
Um,
is.
she is amazing, and she and Carla Mosley really play well against each other. And it's interesting because the way she performs with Carla versus the way she performs with Daphne is so interesting because she matches their energy.
She does.
She very much matches the energy of the sisters, which they very much gave us the foolish sibling, responsible sibling trope with those girls. And so you can tell that she grew, you can definitely tell she grew up with them.
Yes, I
And
agree
that,
with that.
and that she knows how to deal with Danny when Danny is being Danny. And that I have a feeling that a lot of their teenage years was spent with Vanessa going, okay, well, Nicole, you know how she is. I feel like she was very much a buffer between them when they were growing up.
Right.
I really like the three actresses playing those characters have such a good rapport already, and we're only 3 or 4 episodes in. I haven't seen the last episode, I must confess. Um,
And I confess as well, due to scheduling, I have not seen the last episode yet, but
the
it's on
schedules,
my list of things to do.
yeah. But those three together have amazing chemistry. So overall, the cast is extremely strong.
Mhm.
I'm really enjoying it as much as I hate Bill with every fiber of my being, and I do. Timon Kyle,
Mhm.
Durrett is doing a phenomenal job because
Mhm.
you have to have that one character, right?
And she
That
has them.
one character that you're just like, I loathe your existence. And
Hmm.
they're doing a really good job about with that. And I really like the fact that they are not glossing over the damage he caused.
Yeah.
That kind of leads naturally, and we have a little guest. If you see the little hands,
Yes.
there's
If
a
you see the hands, my grandson is here with me. I'm gonna do my daughter keeps him off social media, so
yes,
you
as
can see the
as she
yeah.
should. Um, but one of the main plot lines so far, but there's several already in play, is that Bill blew up his family to not just sleep with his daughter's best friend, but to marry her.
In the
And
country club built by the Dupree family.
yes, built by this young woman's, built by Danny's grandfather. He not only, it's bad enough that you would do everything that you did, but to insist
Hmm.
that you have to have your wedding at the country club that was built by the woman you cheated on grandfather in the
Right.
community that was built and buy a house in the community that was built by the woman you cheated on's grandparents is a
It's
whew,
diabolical.
it's
It's
diabolical.
it's
I have never wanted a character. You know how much I want this man dead.
and the thing is, I'm not gonna lie. During my initial watch, I said, "Oh, when the murder mystery plot comes up, that's who's gonna die." Because we need to set him up. We need to set up the murder plot. And one thing we need to, and I know we're talking about plot lines. We have to remember right now we are 1 week in to this soap opera. And in those 5 episodes, even in the 4 that we've seen, they have got to do a lot of world building, a lot of place setting that that if you walk into Young and the Restless, which is still on the air, they did that, 50, 60 years ago. We're at the beginning. So yes, this first week, some things about the first couple of episodes were kind of slow, felt like they kind of dragged. but we're world building still. We're still very much world building. This would be last week was like the first 10 minutes of any movie you watched because you got to build the space, you got to build the world.
Yeah, and that's a really good way of putting it. It's one of the reasons I'm willing to give it grace because um, there's also, and this is as an actor, one it's interesting. When I was in school, my one of my teachers, Kay Callan, uh, she was like one of the best jobs you could ever get is on a soap. And the reason is you have to learn so much dialogue in such a short time and then make it believable. Soap opera acting is super hard, but it will train you in a way that you have never been trained before, and you get paid for the experience. And so, I really, I'm giving grace because I will say that the acting from some of the actors has been shaky, but I've watched them improve with each episode, especially the younger actors. But I've watched them improve. The ones who are vets, who are pros, who've been around in the business, they came in the door.
They got it. They had it.
They came in hot. The younger generation, I feel like for a lot of them, this might be their first or second major gig, and so that and selling these plot lines, selling these storylines, that's a lot to be putting on. And that's not even going into the historical context of this being since generations the first 95% black cast, and then you add on the first 95% black cast soap opera in
Mhm.
literally decades, and then the first new soap in decades. That's a lot.
And we're
So
also dealing with um, people coming to watching a daytime soap opera that have that one of the tweets, one of the threads that I saw said, if with all the things that they had seen about Beyond the Gates, y'all don't have grandmothers. On a generation that was really brought up on reality TV and how those people act. And yeah, how those people act on reality TV. I
which is
think some of the
insane.
people are expecting more Real Housewives
Yeah.
and not enough what is daytime television.
And it's so funny because the rise of reality TV is directly in conjunction with the fall of daytime and nighttime soaps,
Yeah.
um, which all started, for a little history lesson for you all. The O.J. Simpson car chase is what started the downfall of soaps. They had never had the television stations, the big three had never had numbers like they had with that car chase. And so they interrupted daytime TV for that. And not only did they keep the numbers that they had for daytime TV, they picked up new numbers. And because of that, there is a direct correlation to the phasing out of things like Another World, of shows like As the World Turns, as of shows like All My Children. Um,
That's an excellent point because I want to bring up on the three major networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, from approximately 12:30 through 4 o'clock on all three of these stations were nothing but daytime soap operas. They may have like a couple that were an hour, a couple that were a half hour, but they filled that at varying times. But normally, most of them showed some sort of midday news. So I would say probably about 12:30 they would start to air, and then the last one would go off at around 4, and then you would get into the talk shows with Oprah or Dr. Phil or Dr. or Donahue or whatever. This is 35 years ago that we're talking. Like that was the landscape of when the O.J. Simpson trial happened.
and that I have said this before. We've been batting this idea around for years, actually, because Sherry and I are of the age where we watch these shows with our grandparents. You know,
Exactly.
my nana Mary loved to herself some Erica King. Okay,
All my
And she
children
called
loved them.
herself some Angie and Jesse, again, All My Children. She could not stand Reva Shane over on The Guiding Light. She thought Victor Newman was the best things to slice white bread over on Young and the Restless. And she would literally record on her upstairs TV her ABC soaps, record on her down, because this is back when you had to actually, if you wanted to watch the shows, you had to record them. Now, she didn't really
VCR.
mess with NBC soaps very much. The only one she liked was Another World. She never really got into Days of Our Lives because she couldn't stand Marlene, and she was the one that was the main one for Days of Our Lives. But she would record on her upstairs TV all the CBS shows. So it was like, I feel like it was like Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, and Guiding Light were the main three over there. And then she would watch live her All My Children and One Life to
To
Live.
live. Oh,
Where there was a third one, but I cannot
General
remember.
Hospital, and then there was
General
Port
Hospital.
Charles at one point.
Yeah,
There was Loving at one point because they definitely tried to do a half hour on ABC from 12:30 to 1, and they
yeah,
just couldn't get
sustain
it,
it.
sustain it. But this is where we come from watching this show. I will also say that as a person of a certain age, um, I think one of the biggest misses of the quarantine was the networks not picking a year, pick a year, and just release it on the streaming.
Yes. CBS was
Listen,
the only one that had the sense to do it because CBS released the archives. You could go on CBS right now on Paramount Plus or on CBS All Access, which I think is what Paramount Plus is. At the time during the pandemic, it was CBS All Access. And you could watch One Life, I mean, I'm sorry, Bold and the Beautiful and the Young and the Restless from the beginning. And I believe you can now watch Guiding Light from the top on Paramount Plus. This was the biggest, like, uh,
the
unforced own goal.
the biggest fumble because if they had, because I know ABC is with Hulu, had they released, could you imagine if they had released the All My Children and One Life to Live archive just to stream?
It would
It
have
would
made. I would have been right, girl. I would have been on. I would have been watching every day. I would have been watching every day. Don't
be
even front.
same,
Especially
same.
when you think about all the people. You know, we recently lost Michelle Trachtenberg, and she was on All My Children at the same time as Sarah Michelle Gellar. As children, they played cousins on All My Children, which is one of the reasons why Michelle Trachtenberg was cast as her sister on Buffy. There were so many people who were on who started off on soaps. Julianne Moore, Sarah Michelle
Michael
Gellar,
B. Jordan, Chadwick Boseman.
right? Morgan Freeman,
Hmm.
All the Baldwin brothers,
Yeah,
literally all of them, um, started on soaps, and so like just from no other point of view, but to have people going, "Oh my God, is that Morgan Freeman? Oh my God, is that Alec Baldwin?" You know, like you have this deep
it would
archive.
have been so much fun.
It almost reminds me of one of the topics that Pete and Armand and I always unfortunately have to talk about, which is how DC Warner Brothers keeps fumbling DC Comics because they have such a deep well of characters and yet they keep not using them to the best of their ability. Which goes to a point that we have been talking about for quite some time, which is how the death of soaps, there is a direct correlation between the death of soaps and the intolerance for others in this country. You cannot
Amen.
convince me that there's not.
You're right, because on daytime TV, you had all nationalities. We didn't get our first openly gay character on All My Children until the 90s. But here we are in 2025, and there's a gay married couple on this show, a male couple at that, that are raising kids that have been together long term. Loved as soon as I realized that's what I was looking at. Amazing. And the fact that the family apparently, without overtly having shown their support of their coupledom, of their union, the fact that there has been zero conversation about, my grandfather doesn't like you, or my grandfather, or why haven't I met your grandfather yet? We've been together 15 years, whatever. There's been none of that. So you can surmise that the relationship is accepted and the son-in-law is loved as part of the family. So I appreciate that. And it's also an interracial couple, which we hadn't seen in in the early 90s daytime television. This is all in the plot lines. Um,
And one of the groundbreakers for one of the first major interracial super couples was Tamara Tierney, because
oh
she was Jessica McKechnie on
my
As It Was.
God. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, so again, I was jokingly joking with a friend of mine online about I should have created a bingo card for all the plot points, and all the tropes, just to see how many of them we're going to hit. And it's amazing that they've hit all the major ones. We have the spoiled rich girl. We actually have two of them in Danny and in her daughter, that's the social media influencer, which I appreciate that they brought that type of
Yes.
Gen Z storyline into it. I appreciate that. Um, we have the respected older couple, the grandparents, Tamara, Anita, and Vernon. We have, the gold digger and Haley. I'm sorry, I don't care what you say, honey. You slept with that man, your best friend's father. You're a gold digger.
Yeah.
You have your Erica Kane type. We have a nurse. We have the blue collar workers. So we have everybody.
Okay.
So
And all of
that
them
was
are
amazing to
interconnected.
see. Hmm?
All of them are interconnected because, honey, you could have. Now, I will say this show has done a great job of giving me those moments, those very specific soap opera moments. And this one was a subtle one. This one was a very subtle one. But when Nicole's other PA went to lunch with, and when the woman who showed up at the lunch turned out to be Dana, aka uh, all signs pointing to crazy stalker of Nicole's husband, honey, the way my jaw dropped on the floor, I was like, oh no, this bitch done infiltrated thing. That's right, baby. She did. She done got in there and infiltrated. She is friends with the office worker. She done is her daughter is friends with like um the other
Dogs.
daughter's best friend. It is. I was like, ooh, ooh, and that was such a great moment. And that is what I'm looking for. Those moments where you're like, oh no.
Oh yeah,
No.
definitely. I agree. I agree. Again, they're doing it well. They're do for daytime television in their first week. They are knocking it out of the park.
And it's so hard. I don't think people understand how hard it is to firmly establish characters, world building, everything in such a short time frame, because these shows are filmed daily. Daily. This is a different work ethic than even the best long term shows. Your well, I was going to say your Walking Dead's, but the fall off was real. But even your Doctor Who's,
Mhm.
Star Trek's, they get to film. They film during. They have a whole week, sometimes months, to film one episode, and these people have to do it in 24 to 48 hours. That's right, and get that done and do it well enough that you are pulled in and you're intrigued. And again, as I said, the first few episodes, especially with the younger actors, because it is filming for television is hard. Filming for daytime specifically is so very hard.
Mhm.
Um, that there was a lot of I am not sure where I am supposed to be looking. So I'm going to intensely focus on your face while also being cheated out so that the camera can get my expression, and try not to pay attention to the camera that is And I kid you not, as somebody who's worked background on one of these shows, like right here, to get in your face. Now, granted, the technology has gotten better than it was when I was doing this as a youngin', so they don't have to be quite up your nose as much. Look at them feet. Um, oh, I'm gonna be distracted by the cuteness. But they are doing a very good job of establishing these characters, establishing this world. The writing is getting better with each episode. You can tell that there are vets on this. Um, over the acting, they have intrigued me. I am intrigued. We were speculating because they've done a good job of establishing so much so shortly that we are already in full speculation mode about who's a secret baby, who's cheating on who, this is
Who's
that. And
murdering who? And then the other thing I want to make mention of is that even though the show is not shot in Maryland, um, which is a travesty, we
it
can
truly
tell
is.
that with the description, we can tell that the series takes place in Prince George's County, Maryland. Yeah, the most affluent Afro American county in the country. One throwaway line that I got that I loved hearing, and I hope they continue to do some of these like drop-ins, is when they were talking about, yelling about Haley and Bill, buying a house inside the community. You could have built the house anywhere. Why didn't you build a house in Eagle Harbor, which is a city in southern Maryland? I believe it's at the southern tip of Anne Arundel County. Um, and it is a Black community down there. So just that little bit of throwaway line was like chef's kiss. Like it didn't take up a like, and it was enough to either, if you don't know about it, if you heard it, if you caught it, you might not have caught it and thought, oh, that's not a real place. I happen to know Eagle Harbor is a real place.
It shows that they did their research. And again, this is now more power to Atlanta. But as an actor who is based in Maryland, the fact that this show is not filmed here is a travesty, and it has nothing to do with CBS. It has everything to do with policies that were put in place under a governor 3 governors ago, who basically decimated our film and television industry because a lot of people don't realize that the Maryland film and television industry was booming, especially in the 90s and in the aughts. Um, Another person we lost recently was Gene Hackman. And Gene Hackman filmed 2 films in here, both of which I was in. Um,
Isn't one of
and
the Die Hard films filmed here?
one of the Die Hard films filmed here. Enemy of the State with Gene Hackman and Will Smith filmed here. Um, and so the fact that they wouldn't have had to build the sets because these homes exist. As you said, all of these places that they're mentioning in the show, I'm sorry, husband just said Gene Hackman was actually filmed 4 films in Maryland,
Mhm.
which is insane to me. And we had such a booming film industry, and greed, um, you know, ruined it, and not just ruin the lives of, like, not ruin the lives, but it made it so much harder for actors to have a sustainable life here. Rock was filmed here because Charles S. Dutton, I mean, yeah, Rock is from Maryland. Um, so many things were filmed here. Diner, basically any movie that is set by what's our guy? Most TV shows. Oh my gosh, The Wire. What is his name? David Simon films everything he has to that he can here in Maryland. And so knowing that these neighborhoods are real neighborhoods that really exist and are real places that we could have had that massive industry here
Yep.
is incredibly frustrating, especially as an actor and a director, knowing the level of talent that we have in this town and all the people who could be employed off of that right now is incredibly frustrating from, just from my own personal point of view.
Agreed. Agreed. Very
Um,
much agreed.
Overall, I am enjoying this show a great deal. I am looking forward to finding out what shenanigans are going to happen next week. I will say the things I don't like, which we do need to talk about.
Okay.
You can't convince me. I'm sorry, and this is something that you and I have discussed offline.
Mhm.
In the age of the internet, A, and in the way we as people, especially women, especially Black women,
Mhm.
have grown and changed in terms of how we deal with toxic behaviors and toxic family and toxic relationships. I mean, one of the biggest stories right now is Cardi B finally going, enough is enough, right? One of the biggest stories in the Black community, and the fact that Offset genuinely thought that people were going to be on his side when she finally went, yeah, I'm gone, I'm good, I'm good. And yet no one is, except for toxic hoteps. Because we watched this woman who was always fully in love and supported this man. We all knew that he was cheating on her almost the entirety of their relationship. We watched this play out in real life. And she finally got fed up. And he basically tried to weaponize their children against her. And when that didn't work, tried to basically say, well, you just run through because you had 3 babies at 32. Yeah, while married to you, all 3 are your children. So
That's the one thing I will never understand. The people like, well, she's ran through because she had kids with her husband.
with her husband,
That was a joint resolution.
right. And meanwhile, sir, you're 33 with 6 kids by 4 different women. So,
Exactly.
right. So we have changed as a society, and specifically Black women have changed in what we are and are not willing to put up with. So to watch Danny spiraling because this man cheated on her, but then to come to find out that she had allowed it up until this point, and this was just the first time that he did it at home, and this was the
He
first,
embarrassed her with it. There's a difference.
exactly.
There's a that I say this often in when these type of conversations cut up. There are couples out here that have an agreement. Dude, actually, it's an old story from Smokey Robinson. I'll never forget it because he told the story. His first wife was well aware of what he was doing on the road, but your boundary, your rule is don't get anybody pregnant. They were married damn near 50 years. He was out there touring. She was home taking care of the house and the family. He loved her. She loved him. Somebody came back pregnant. She walked. So people have these rules. It's don't leave with you didn't come back with. Don't embarrass me with it. And that's what Bill did in this particular situation. He embarrassed her by going to the daughter's best friend, which
Gross.
Bruce. Um, Overall, I think the show, as you said, I think the show is very good. I think watchers and viewers new to daytime television need to realize what the point of daytime television is to give us something to gossip about, to talk about that is definitely 100% not real life and made up. As me and my hairdresser were talking today about it, I'm like, this is the point of the show being here. Um, as someone who loves clothing and fashion, I want to say the fashion is amazing in this show. There was an outfit on Dr. Nicole that first day, the gray skirt with, I'm trying to figure that out. But the clothes are amazing. That's another thing with daytime television. Everybody's always dressed well. Um, if you have been on a diet of Real Housewives, it's going to take you a little bit to get into this because you've never really watched daytime television. Keep giving it a chance. If there's a point to the show. And for those that have asked me, because I've had a couple of people ask me, I want to make sure I drop it in here. You can watch it live at 2 p.m. on the CBS station in your area. You can, I have YouTube TV for my live television. I can watch it video on demand the next day, but I also record it. So I DVR it when it initially airs. If you have Paramount Plus, you can watch it there. So there are three places where you can watch the show. I just wanted to give that information out to anyone who needs it. That is how you watch the show. The show is available. I think if you have cable, and you can probably log into CBS Plus All Access, and you can get to it there as well.
Yeah. I think that is a very good point about we've had yes, pointed by a baby, and I
Yes, my
told
grandson. My grandson says he needs my attention now.
um, but I think that we've had at this point two generations who've grown up on reality TV and who have no comprehension
Mhm.
of the building of the storylines, which is so funny because most daytime TV is actually scripted to an extent. Um, so because it made the incidents themselves might not be scripted, but the way they edited are to
Right.
build a storyline. Um, but my only concern is for someone like me, who one of the main reasons I stopped watching soaps, especially once All My Children Have One Life to Live went off the air, because I grew up with those characters,
Mhm.
um, is I got very tired of people not using common sense.
Right.
And so, at what point, how many times is Brooke going to go back to Rich?
Right.
How many times is she going to sleep with one of her children's spouses and get away with it? Um, my concern is, as especially with the information age and cell phones, how much can you keep a secret? Because there's one major one that we still don't know the full extent of on the show that's been seeded since episode one. Conversation in the diner where I will always be proud of you no matter what. And I was like, well, that was very specific.
Yeah.
And
Agreed. Agreed. So that, but my closing statement, my closing argument will be this: give the show a chance.
yeah,
Give the show, give the show your 4.5 hours a week.
yes,
You don't have. I mean, if you want to sit and watch, do that. If you want to kind of have it on in the background while you're cooking dinner, do that. Um, but the show is good. The show is for daytime television. The show is very good. They definitely did the work that they needed to do
yeah,
to make this show what it needed to be for daytime television.
yeah.
If you were also trying to compare it to nighttime soaps, which we do not have many of them on television right now
I
either,
don't even have any.
right? They tried to redo Dynasty a couple of years ago.
It was
Yeah,
not good. I tried.
it was not good, but it's there's just a different way that these shows are produced and the way that these shows are written that it forces you to slow down.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. And
It-
stop and think and analyze every scene. Because after the reveal, and I want to say episode three, I went back and rewatched episode one, and I was like, oh, y'all gave me a lot of information I didn't realize you were giving me. And so I appreciate that. So my closing argument will be same thing. Please give the show a chance because I'm enjoying it so far. And my hope is that they have acknowledged the times have changed in a many ways. I need that to be reflective in the writing more with all of these secrets that are buried because I think that good writers can make that work to their advantage.
I agree.
I think good writers can make how the world has changed, how morality has changed to their advantage while still giving us soapy goodness. I think
So
that we have the basis for that, and I'm seeing that. I need them to continue to push.
Also, we also have to remember that this show started filming prior to the 2020 election. So they probably have a few months of this in the can. So, or at least a month's worth of this show in the can, ready to release. So while they are touching on hot topics in the news, they may not touch on them too hard because they've been recording since sometime, late October.
Yeah, they started filming, I want to say last year, beginning of
Yeah.
last year, actually, to get everything ready.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to take this ride, and we will be back next week with our actual full on recap of and review of what actually happened now that we've established, much like the show, now that we've established what the Gates is about. Next week is when we're going to be able to really start cooking about what's been going
We
on.
can get on here and have our gossip, which is what the soaps are for. We
Exactly.
can drink our tea and gossip.
That's right. Well, I won't be drinking. Sure, tea. That's what it
Hey, my
is.
point. Your wine, your tea, your whiskey, whatever we drinking, we're gonna be drinking,
We're gonna be drinking it, and we're gonna be talking about it.
and we're
So,
gonna be talking about it.
you guys, if you like this, please give us a like and subscribe. Um, you can find us at PC Uncovered on Instagram and Threads, and soon still and other places. You can find us at popcultureuncovered.com, and you can support us on Patreon at PC Pop Culture Uncovered on Patreon, where you can get access to our older podcasts for $3, and you can pledge to be a member for as much or as little as you'd like. Join us. We will be out in these streets at we were, and we might still.
Mm.
We'll see what happens with the RSV. And whether we will be RSVPing will be dependent on the RSV.
Amen.
Um,
Hallelujah.
exactly. But in the in between time, we love you guys. We cannot wait to take this journey with you.
Yes.
And we'll see you beyond the gate.
And Gates. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.